Welcome to the Grow Your Business and Grow Your Wealth podcast with Gary Heldt. Gary is an expert in helping business owners put together a plan that will provide a better future for their businesses, themselves, and their families. On the podcast, Gary interviews other professionals who share his vision, and together they share secrets and strategies any business owner can use to build a better financial foundation for your business and your life.
Hey, welcome back to the podcast. This week, my guest is Monica Garcia Duggal, and she is a viral financial expert and that's right, billion-dollar business coach with over 30 years of experience in global financial methodologies. Welcome.
Thank you. Very excited to be here.
Great. So, Monica, kind of give us your backstory. You didn't just start out and be this billion-dollar business coach.
No, actually I didn't. But I did start as an entrepreneur. Even before I even knew I was an entrepreneur. My mom was an entrepreneur, and all her friends were entrepreneurs. So I thought, okay, this is what you do. You build businesses.
Right.
Not only was she an entrepreneur and her friends were entrepreneurs, she was always talking about like, oh, look, they should build that business there, or oh, look this. And she would also consult to people, like help them start businesses. So that's all I knew. I just knew business, business, business. And then she would give me a lot of like information like customer service and investing, right? Like in interest rates and just tons of different information. Half the stuff I was like, why is she telling me this? It's like,
Right.
it almost seems so useless, right? This kid. But so I wanted to go to law school. And I graduated from UC Berkeley and I ended up in investment banking. And that was like so bizarre. I'm like, what the heck am I doing here? I'm an
Right.
English and rhetoric major going to law school. But what ended up happening was I was in the private equity. So you have to write first calls for your institutional investors. And that's what I was doing there. But when I was in there with the sales team and bringing companies public, it was actually during the dot-com era, so
Mhm.
a very exciting time. I just felt so alive, and I was like, I forget about law school. I'm gonna do like finance. And so after that, I just started finance. So 30 years later, I read about finance, I study, I go to classes. I go to like these top business schools and I do like mergers and acquisition classes, valuations classes for businesses. I do CFO classes, which is interesting because I know you're an accountant. So there's all these levels of accounting for businesses for
Right.
sure. So yeah, that's how I got started. And so I fell in love with it. Like I can talk about finance, and my family gets so tired of me. Like,
Right.
can't you do anything else? I'm like, don't you find this fascinating? And they're like, no, not really. Like they have other things they want to do and talk about. So yeah.
Right. I mean, that's really cool that that's that this is really your passion. Uh,
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And like you, I love what you do in terms of trying to help people. I'm also in the same frame in terms of personal finance. I think personal finance is so important to people. And it's interesting because I'll talk to people that are like professors and they think it's important as well. And we don't get taught
no,
personal finance in school.
no.
It just doesn't, I don't even understand that. And so that's one thing that I'm very passionate about is like you, just trying to teach people that, hey, money's neutral, finances are neutral, right? And this is so important for people to really get around this and really, just take your time and figure out what you want and how you want to live your life and then go for it. Do that.
Yeah. I mean, the personal finance isn't taught in schools.
Not at all.
And you would think that that would be one of those basic classes, at least one, if not more,
Yeah,
basic classes that they would offer in high school to teach
exactly.
people coming out, if not anything, how to balance checkbooks, how to, what are
Exactly.
interest rates and what's good, what versus what's bad, and,
Yeah,
interest that you're earning versus interest that you're paying. Uh,
exactly.
so many
Yeah.
people go in, get in such debt and they don't know how to climb out of it.
Exactly.
I think, as business owners, we know a little bit more, but not always.
Exactly.
Because many times people start their business just because they are a good tactician at something.
Yeah.
And because they're so good, they're in demand and they grow this business and then they get down the road and you know, leveraging and different things like that. They don't understand that.
Yeah.
And that's why, you have to have a professional team, and you need to find the ones that are right for you,
Yeah.
that talk your language to
Yeah.
be able to, get there and succeed.
Yeah.
Um, you
That's a really, really great point, Gary. And I think that like it's interesting that as I'm just listening to you, I'm thinking, wow, like that's even a need. Like, how do you even find those professionals, right? How do you even vet them, right? Like you're saying, these people, they start these professions and they're really good at it, but there's all these other pieces that they need, right? So even for them to go look, right? Then you go through Google or you get a recommendation from somebody. But how do you even find that? Like that'd be amazing if I know they have like Angie's List and stuff of these sorts, but how about something like that for like professional networks? I know there are some, but that's a really good point, Gary. Just trying to get that team together for
Yeah, but
sure.
it's, yeah, there's many, I'm gonna say, here where I'm at, I mean, you could throw a rock and you can hit a CPA, no
Right,
issues with that. But is it the right professional for you?
right.
Because, you're brilliant at what you do, but if you and I can't have a conversation where I'm understanding where you're coming from and you're understanding where I'm coming from, and me respect you enough to accept the knowledge that you're given to me, then that's not going to be a good relationship together. And
Yeah.
I think that that's something as business owners, just like you have employees that you work with, and do you have that good relationship with them that you're able to talk with them easily? Same thing with your professional relationship, and I think that
Yeah.
that's so important. And I'm sure you see that when you're doing the business coaching.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm listening to you right now again, and I think that's why I'm the billion-dollar business coach because I'm great at strategy, and some of the stuff that you're talking about, actually, some of my growth, that's where I've had the challenges. Exactly that. Is that a good fit? Like, is that the right person for you? What other person can you bring on the team? That has been one of my biggest challenges, and that's why I always work backwards. So it's like,
Sure.
this is where I want to go. And then how do I go backwards this way? That gives me a little bit of an opportunity to, maybe make a lot more mistakes in finding the right partners because that is a really, right?
Yeah.
That is a challenge right there. Like that would be amazing. And sometimes, like that's why I was like, Gary, that's another thing that we need is like somebody
Yeah.
to help you figure out how to find the talent. Besides a human resource person, right? Because a human resource, you could go find talent that way, but almost even like a book, like what do you need? Okay, you're going to need a CPA, you're going to need an attorney, you're going to need this for like business owners even, right? So they can know. And then also to what capacity, right? Like you don't want to get somebody that is going to do these 10,000 things for you if you're a smaller organization. Maybe you need these two items that are very
Right.
important to your business, even at whatever, size you are. So I think something of that sort, and I don't think I've actually ever heard anybody talk about that, like getting your team together. I know that we always like look at like venture capital and private equity, and unfortunately, a lot of people, because that's the information that's out there, people will take those models and they'll use them for their little business, and it doesn't work
Right.
out.
Yeah. Yeah.
It doesn't work out.
I think one of the things, and again, talking about, building this professional team, you're a business coach. You're
Yes.
not going to sit there and do their tax return for them.
Oh, not at all. I'll do like high level strategy
Correct,
stuff.
correct.
Yeah.
And you may have some tax strategies and other things, for them, but then they need to have that CPA, they need to have that attorney, they need to
Exactly.
have those pieces to then say, okay, here's the plan that I have, and we want to move forward on it, but I need you to do this, I need you to do this, and you to do this to be able to make this work. I think where
Right.
people make the mistakes are they're coming to a CPA to write up their contracts, or they're trying to get them to do the business coaching and so forth, and it's like,
Right.
it that all of those are a different mindset.
Yeah.
And are there CPAs out there that can do that? Yeah, there probably are, but are they going to do it as well as you're going to do it as a business coach, or someone to do it as an attorney? And I
Right.
think that that's where we need to have that clear distinction to
Yeah.
be able to do that. And it's just like, and typically you're going to have one of those professionals being, I'm going to call it the quarterback, which
Yeah.
you probably do a lot as the business coach.
Right.
You're
Right.
helping, quarterback them and their team.
Yeah, yeah. That's exactly right. And so at my level, what I do is like for example, Gary, if I was going to work with you, I would like definitely go, what are your goals, right? And then again, we would work backwards. And you're right. Once you get to those really fine points where now we're getting very technical, you do have to go out and look for the people to fill those spots that that work with you well and that can do those definitely those I guess tasks because also another thing that I'm really big on is systems. And
Right.
so, right, that's where you can work with other professionals and have these systems. And then that could work like clockwork. But you have to know what you need exactly, all the details there. And I think so going to your you made a point earlier, which I thought was very valid and very important is somebody like that is trying to sell their company, right? And then at what point, how do they do that? And I think you're right. If they had their whole team, I think they'd have a more realistic and a better view of that future, right? Of how
Right.
they want to retire.
Right. Right. Um,
I probably listened to one of your podcasts, so I hope that you're okay if I'm bringing some
oh
of
yeah.
that in here.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
definitely, definitely. So Monica, so you're working with, these business owners,
Yeah,
and doing this, and you just talked about it's like, hey, I help them um talk about their goals.
exactly.
Um,
Yeah.
what are some of I'm going to say that the common mistakes when you first start working with business owners? What are some of the common mistakes that you see them make that you're trying to help correct?
Okay, so I do have this. Okay, since I've been doing finance for 30 years, I I got this board, and I'm like, what are all the things like in finance, like that you can have to deal in finance in your personal life and your business life? So I just wrote tons of things on this board, and what I came up with, and I'm like, and then the acronym. Okay, you're gonna love this, and I'm like, what acronym like can I create from all of this? So I created the financial bites system methodology. So BITES. So B is for budget. Business budget. You can even have personal budget. Then I is for investing, right? You can have your personal investing and even investing for your company. T is for taxes. Unfortunately, I know you
Oh
deal
yeah,
with that, but a lot of people don't even think about their
right.
taxes when
Yep,
they're selling their company. They're like, "Oh, that's all I'm getting," and it's like you have
yep,
to think about these when you're organizing yourself to do these things.
correct.
And then E is for exit strategy, right? Which is great. Like start thinking about the end when you're starting your company, even.
Yeah,
Like, like you're walking to it, or you're even thinking about it. Like, start thinking about how you want to finish it, because that is all going to help you just organize yourself. And the last one I have is systems. If you want to sell your company and you're having your systems, excellent. Somebody can actually pay you more and just take it, because in that way you can pull yourself out of the business and then somebody can just take it over, right? If in fact that's what you want. Or
Right.
even if you created amazing systems for yourself, you can go on vacation and not be like, I can't leave because my company won't run without me. So that's pretty much the bites methodology. And so I think that's like, so when I look at a company, some of the challenges, maybe they're dealing with they have the great budget, but they're not dealing with taxes. Or maybe they're dealing with taxes, but they don't have any systems in place. Or maybe they're dealing with like they know how they want to exit, but I don't know, maybe they have too much debt. So even if they sold their company, they're going to have to pay all that off. And so that's going to be a big chunk of their what they get to walk away with. So I pretty much I look at companies through their business models, whatever you're doing. So for me, nobody's doing anything perfectly right or perfectly wrong, right? You have a product. So what I do is I just try to strategize, like how can we, or first of all, what is your goal, right? So if your goal is like, I want to, grow this, I want to continue to grow this. Or if your goal is, I just want to, work here for another 5, 10 years, and then I want to exit. So that's how I look at it. And I think mostly the probably the most toughest thing that I see with companies is you can't do everything, Gary. You cannot do everything, but you do have to start like thinking about your company holistically. So I think that's probably, if there's something that is a big red flag, is that. But I'll tell you what, everybody has to deal with that. Even I, like with my company, and I do this, like I literally have to carve out time to like, okay, go and reassess this. Go look at this. How is that going, right? So it's almost, you have to really be consistent with this stuff and put it, and that's another system right there,
Yeah.
is looking at your systems, is looking at all of the pieces, because also things change, right? Your
Oh,
products
yeah.
change, the market changes. Now we have tariffs, right? So nothing should really affect you so much that you cannot continue, if you're starting to look at all these things and just kind of be more proactive. Be proactive, think about an exit strategy. And I think the other part, Gary, I love there's these couple of books, and I know there's somebody else's books, but I'm going to talk about them.
Right.
There's one that's called Atomic Habits, and I really think you can use that in your business. And there's another one that's called a 1% rule, and I think you can use that on your business. Basically, both of those are just little changes, right? So you're just improving like 1% per day. In a year, that's like 32%.
Right.
That's a lot of improvement, right? So because sometimes we don't want to look at something because it's like, oh my gosh, like really, like please, I really don't
Right.
want to look at it because everything looks so big. So if we just start like, all right, don't look at the whole thing, but let's just start moving the needle a little bit. So let's start looking at that. All right, we'll go deal with that this month or for this first quarter, right? We're going to look at that. So we don't have to go change it all. And actually, even if we look at it and we take some analysis, we don't even have to do anything. We just have information on it and just leave it there. And so if if people do this with their businesses, I think that they can do really, really well. And so, like, for example, right now, listening to your podcast, right? Little things like this, right? And it's like you kind of always have to be looking for stuff. You always have to be educating yourself. You always have to see what else is out there, because sometimes you may just find something that's actually just going to completely help you. And you're like, whoa, when did that happen? Like, wow, if I had this 10 years ago or something.
Right.
But it doesn't matter. The reality is wherever you're at, you just move forward. So did I answer your question?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it sounds like to me a lot of it too is changing your mindset.
Oh my
And
gosh,
that's a
yes,
that's
yes.
a huge piece to it. That's what I'm hearing you say,
Yeah,
when you're talking through this, and it's really
yeah.
changing your mindset. When you started talking about, the financial bites method, I kind of chuckle because, the first one's budget. Nobody wants to do a budget.
That's why they want you to do all of their stuff. You do my
Exactly.
contract, you do my legal, right? Because
Right.
that's really at the end of the day, that's the I do have some offerings. One of them is profit, right?
Yeah.
Like who cares how much revenue you're making if you don't have any profit at the end? Like
Right.
that's what you're taking home. Like that's what you
Right.
get to spend. So many people don't deal with their operations very well. Like that
Right.
is like, oh my gosh. Like
Yeah.
for me, that's leaving money on the table. And you
Well,
don't
and I
have to
think,
do that.
same thing with systems.
Yeah,
And it's like if you don't have systems in place, when you lose someone and you need to replace them and you don't have those
exactly.
systems in place, either
Exactly.
you're teaching them or someone else is teaching them. And if someone else is teaching them, or even if you're teaching them, are you teaching them the right way that you
Exactly.
initially set up and so forth, or are you creating bad habits on top of it? I
Yes.
mean, I
Yeah.
always say it's kind of like the telephone game. It's like, okay, hey, I've said this to begin
By
with,
the
and
time it
by the
gets to the
time
end.
it gets down, it's something totally different. So
Yeah.
that's why it's always good to have those systems in place.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah. And so the books that I've seen for systems are usually operations books.
right,
Like they're really yeah, that's another thing, like systems. Like how do you create simple systems, right? If you're just a smaller company, and you're right, if somebody leaves, how easy should it be to have something there so the next person could just say, okay, here, this is what you do. The start, finish, here's your little guidebook. Like,
yeah, yeah. I think a lot of and you as a business coach, I'm sure that you go over this with them. So many business owners, they look at the bottom line. Okay, I got profit, I'm good. And it's like, well, you need to go back and analyze and really look at, okay, why do you have that profit and why don't you have more? And looking at it, and I always try to tell people, it's like when you're trying to grow a business, yes, you need to grow that top line number because that's important to grow, but you also have to manage those expenses in between and look at how much overhead do you have and why is it important to make sure you keep control of that. And
exactly.
and I
Yeah.
think that people don't talk about that. And again, I'm going to go back and say, you know, your CPA who's preparing your tax return or your bookkeeper that's doing the bookkeeping is not that person to sit there and analyze that with you. Uh,
Right.
that's that type of thing is a different engagement. Yes, your bookkeeper, your CPA could do that with you, but that's a separate engagement. And I'm
Exactly.
sure as the business coach, that's something you go through all the time with them.
Yeah, yeah, no, exactly. And Gary, I think that like and it's so weird how when we look at something, right? When we start like looking at it, like really looking at it, we don't realize like how intricate and how many details. So basically right now what I'm hearing you say is like, at some point in your operations you should have something for like getting coaching or right? And I I
100%.
literally I literally, Gary, tell people like if you could get a coach, something that takes you a whole year will only take you 3 months because
Yeah,
you're leveraging their expertise, right? And they're helping you focus. So they pretty much get rid of 80% of distraction and say, okay, what are the 20%? Like, really, that, at almost everybody's business, 20% is making all of your money for you.
yeah,
So
yeah,
80%, you're really just kind of wasting your time. Not only that, your time, money, and your energy. So what you're saying, like, why isn't there more profit? Like, if they take these initiatives and they actually go and put some time and effort into it, their bottom line, the profit would grow. And their operations, I mean, even just like cleaning up your operations, you can have your profit bigger.
right, right, right. I think that, again, looking at that, it's like great, lots of times people put together a budget like they do a business plan. They put it together, it looks pretty, and then they throw it in the drawer and they never come back and look at it again.
Exactly. And a lot of people don't want to deal with budgets. They don't want to deal with budgets because once you get off track, you're like, oh my God, it doesn't work, right? And so I think a budget also is supposed to be fluid, right? It's
Yep.
like, this is what we want, this is what we're trying to do, but if it moves, like that's fine. But let's take a look at that. Sometimes that could be something really good, right? Like maybe you know, a possibility that you're going to be able to sell more products over here, right? Or on the other hand, maybe even looking at that, you could see like, oh my gosh, we're actually paying money to make this product. Like
Right.
we're like so losing money here, right? And so I think what you're saying, 100%, yes, people should be taking a look at that. And why aren't we taking a deeper look at our financials?
Right, right. I think the other thing why I like people having business coaches as part of their professional group um, is that's someone who's helping hold them accountable. And
Right,
I'm going to tell you that having a friend or spouse being your coach or being that person that's holding you accountable isn't a good thing because are they really going to hold you accountable? And again, I don't think it's a good idea to have that as your spouse because that creates other frictions,
right.
but yes, you may have some friends that will hold you accountable that you respect, um but I think that's something that's very important to have in your I'm going to call it in your team or your arsenal.
Yeah, no, I think what you're saying right now is kind of like that's the investment in your company, right?
Hmm.
And I know a long time ago when I started in finance, uh, oh gosh, I think I had been in finance for like 2 or 3 years. We actually had a professional salesperson. I was in San Francisco, come from New York, and we did all the sales, and it was really interesting because part of what we learned is like you have to put in money to like for education, like that
Yeah.
should just be a line item, right? And all of these things. And so for me, that's what a coach would be, right? In that, like they're definitely your team. Also, there's something really interesting about working with coaches is they really help you with your decision making, because sometimes we want to make the best decision that we want, that we can, and then we're like trying to do our decision trees and this and that. But when you're working with a coach, right, you do that with them, and then this is why I'm doing this, and once you do that, now you don't have to worry about that. Now you can take action, and you can focus on other parts of your business. So
Yeah.
I think that having the team definitely is worth it. Um, and then like everything, right? Nothing's perfect. So if something's not working out, that's fine. You just course correct.
It,
And at the end of the day, it usually works out amazing if you
yeah.
really could get all these things together.
Yeah. I think lots of times people do they overthink it and they want it to be absolute perfect before
Right.
they launch it. And
Yeah.
there's a difference between being 40% right versus 80% right and
Yeah.
launching.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
see that quite a bit also.
Yeah, and I think that would be true for a lot of entrepreneurs, because I think they could be a lot of A-type perfectionists. And I've just seen people that are extremely, extremely successful. And I go back and I'll look when they started, and it didn't look very, very glamorous, or it didn't look
Right.
very good. But they're like, I got to get this stuff out. Like, I don't
Right.
even care. And I think like, how do you get to that point, right? And I think that's kind of like what a coach can help you with, and also like your team as well. And I think that it's tough. uh, it's tough being a perfectionist. There's a professor at Stanford. I think, what is it called? The growth mindset, maybe. Anyway, she talks about like a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. And so the whole idea behind it is that the perfectionist is a fixed mindset, right? Like, let's say you're like a genius pianist, and everybody's like, "Oh my God, Gary, you're so amazing. That was like the ultimate." And you're like, "Okay, I'm not creating anymore because it's not going to be that perfect,
Right.
right?" And so, unfortunately, that's it. Nobody gets to listen to your music anymore because of this, like, right, perfection mindset. But then if they're like, "Oh, Gary, that was like the most amazing," and you continue or whatever, right? And then that you can allow yourself to make mistakes and
Right.
continue, then everybody can still listen to your amazing, works. And so, I think that it's very hard for people to get out of the perfectionist mindset, but you kind of have to jump out, you have to you have to like get out of the plane when if you're gonna go parachute
Sure.
jumping, right? Like sometimes you just have to do it. If you're afraid of heights, use another analogy, but
Right. Right. Right.
do something that's hard, that's scary, right?
Right.
You're gonna be
Yeah.
fine.
You got to take that first step for sure.
Yeah.
So we could go on forever, I'm sure. You have a lot of different programs and stuff that you have put together
Yeah.
that you use in your coaching. Besides the financial bites method. Um, can you hit on those real quick for us? What some of these
Sure.
other ones are?
Sure. So I am offering something for personal finance. Usually I would work with businesses, but I thought that would be something that I could do for people if they are interested. So I have three tiers for that. And then I do have another one. This is more because I do strategy and because I've gone to the mergers and acquisition classes at like Stanford, Harvard, Wharton, and Chicago Booth. Amazing, amazing experiences, and I do valuations. So for that, those are a bit more, and those would be for businesses. For example, somebody that just wants to start a business, like, because I would consult to businesses before. So 2 years, like I help you get yourself ready for 2 years so you survive the 2 years, because reality, the first 2 years you're not going to make any money. Like
Right.
that's, because you have to set your systems up, you have to get your teams, everything together. And then after the 2 years, you usually do really well. And then I have another one that's profit, not revenue, profit. Let's look at your profit. You
Right.
make profit. That's where we're at. And then I have a final one, and this one's a little bit more pricey, but it would be for like maybe somebody that's already doing really well, and that's a 10xer to 10x, and that's not easy at all. That
Right.
is, that's a lot of work, and that one is, you really have to be ready for that, right? Because usually, if you're doing something like that, there's a lot of focus, a lot of flexibility, a lot of non-perfectionism at all, right? You,
Right.
you you cannot be a perfectionist at all, and then just having that right mindset that, hey, you just show up the next day, you show up the next day, you show up the next day, and just keep, keep I don't know, um, hitting that big boulder, and then eventually it cracks. So yeah, that's what I have right now. And then if people want the bites method, I have a free download on that one as well,
Okay.
to
Great.
start learning about the budget. And I have for personal, it's just a little like a little taste of it, but I think it's good because even if you downloaded it and you started using it even for your personal life or your business life, I think that if you start looking at it that way, you'll start learning a lot, and you'll see like, oh, I'm really good at this, or oh wow, I need to work on that. So definitely.
Yeah, and it's something you have to stay consistent with. You can't do it once and then stop and so forth. You got to be consistent.
Yeah, yeah, Gary. And I'm of the mindset. Well, I've been doing this for 30 years, and so I love it. Just continue to move that and almost like celebrate every time you make a step in, something for yourself, like just celebrate that, because I think that's really important, especially, when things get tough and stuff. You have to realize that you're you're betting for yourself, right? If you go and you download it like my Bites Method, or if you go listen to a podcast like yours, Gary, or if you go, to a conference or anything of that sort, you're doing something for yourself, and it really, like, your return on that investment
Right.
is, you're gonna get it. You're gonna get
Yeah.
it. Like, when you do stuff for yourself, you're gonna start doing really, really well.
Right. So Monica, what have I not asked you wish I had?
Um,
I mean, I know that there's a lot we could, I mean, again, we could talk
Yeah.
days about all
Yeah.
of this, but
Gosh. Oh, and I am having a talk show as well where I'm going to, I'm actually going, I'm going to do a podcast. So my podcast is going to be Monica's Money Moves. So I will be talking about kind of personal finance. And then I also want to get like leaders on there, all sorts, because I know we think about leaders like, oh, but like, for example, you, Gary, you're a leader, right? Like, here you're trying to help all these people, right? Like, hey,
right,
look, I'm going to sit here. We're going to explain it. We're going to get, like, that's amazing because that's such a great thing for the community. It's a great thing for people that I don't have time, but I listen to this and it's helping me. So, so I am having that as well. I'm very excited about that
right,
one.
right. So, Monica, if people want to download the Financial Bites method, if they want to learn more about your other programs and stuff like
Yeah.
that, or they just want to talk to you, how can they reach out to you?
Yeah, so it's www.monicagarciaduggal.com. So if you go to my website, I'm also on Instagram and LinkedIn. And if you Google Monica Garcia Duggal, I think my LinkedIn comes up and my Instagram, and yeah.
Great, great. I
Okay.
really appreciate your time today and a
Thank
great
you so much,
conversation.
Gary. This is awesome. Thank you so much, Gary. I
Sure.
love the work you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you. Hey, this week my guest was Monica Garcia Duggal, and I will see you guys next week.